This happened a few years ago during a long road trip my partner and I took across the country. We weren't in a rush, so we chose a route that passed through a few places we wanted to see, which meant we also had to cross long, empty stretches of highway where the landscape barely changed for miles. Late one night, we were driving through a part of the country that felt like it belonged to nobody. Just flat land, darkness, and an occasional sign promising a town that still seemed impossibly far away. The road was so empty that seeing another set of headlights felt unusual. I had fallen asleep in the passenger seat sometime after sunset. I'm the kind of person who can sleep through anything in a moving car, and I was out for hours. I woke up when the car slowed down. The sudden change in motion pulled me out of sleep, and I looked up to see us turning into a small gas station off the highway. The kind of place with harsh lights, a single building, and a parking lot that looked larger than it needed to be. My partner said he was going to fill the tank and grab snacks. I figured it was a good time to use the bathroom while we had the chance, because out there you never knew when the next stop would appear. I stepped out of the car and headed inside. I didn't bring my phone, I didn't bring my purse either. It wasn't a decision I really thought about. I told myself I'd be in and out in 2 minutes. I told myself it was safe because it was a public place. I told myself it was fine. The store was quiet. The cashier behind the counter looked tired and barely acknowledged me. The shelves were stocked with the usual road trip stuff, chips, candy, energy drinks, and the fluorescent lights made everything feel pale and unreal. The bathrooms were down a narrow hallway near the back. As I walked down that hallway, I remember thinking how empty the place felt. Not abandoned exactly, but like it was running on low power, as if the building itself was half asleep. I reached the women's restroom and pushed the door open, and I almost collided with someone. A woman stepped out of one of the stalls at the exact moment I walked in. It would have been a normal near miss, an awkward little sorry moment, except for the way she looked and the way she reacted. Her hair was grey and messy, like it hadn't been brushed in a long time. She was wearing a heavy coat that looked completely out of place for the weather, and it hung on her shoulders like she was hiding inside it. In one hand, she carried a plastic grocery bag tied at the top, tight enough that whatever was inside had sharp corners. But the thing that froze me wasn't her clothes, it was her stare. She didn't give me that normal, quick glance people do when they're stepping around someone. She stopped and looked straight at me, eyes locked, like she was waiting for me to say a specific word, like she expected a signal. I gave her a polite nod and tried to step past her. She didn't move right away. Not blocking me fully, but not making it easy either. Just standing there long enough to make the moment stretch into something uncomfortable. Finally, she shifted slightly and I squeezed past her toward the sinks. I assumed she'd leave, but instead, she turned around and followed me. She stepped into the sink area too, and just stood there. She didn't wash her hands. She didn't look at herself in the mirror. She didn't fix her hair. She didn't do anything a normal person does in a restroom. She just stood still with her arms at her sides, facing the mirror, but watching me through it. That was when the fear started to settle in. Not panic yet. Just that quiet, sour instinct that tells you something is wrong, even when you can't prove it. I went into the nearest stall and locked it. The moment I sat down, the first thought that hit me was how stupid I'd been not to bring my phone. I had no easy way to text my partner, no quick way to call, no backup plan if this got worse. I tried to calm myself down. I told myself she was just strange, that maybe she was mentally unwell, that she'd leave and I'd walk out and forget about this. I sat there in silence, listening. After a minute, I heard her footsteps moving toward the restroom door. They were slow and deliberate, and then I heard the sound of the restroom door opening and closing. I exhaled. I waited a few seconds, just to be sure, and then my stomach dropped. Because I could still hear breathing. It wasn't mine, it was someone else's, soft, controlled, close enough that it sounded like it was coming from just outside the stall row. It hit me that she could have faked leaving. She could have opened and closed the door just to make me think I was alone, and then stayed inside, standing quietly near the entrance, where I couldn't see her. I didn't move. I didn't even shift my feet. I sat perfectly still, trying to make my own breathing quiet, terrified that she could hear me and know exactly where I was. Time felt wrong in that moment. Every second stretched. I kept listening for footsteps, for anything. Then I heard the restroom door open and close again. The breathing stopped. A wave of relief rushed through me, but it wasn't clean relief. It was the kind that comes with suspicion. I waited longer. I told myself to stay in the stall until I was completely sure. Just as I started to lean forward to unlock the door, I heard a sudden, loud inhale, like someone had been holding their breath for a long time. Immediately after that, the restroom door opened and closed again. That was the moment my fear turned into something sharper. She had done it twice. She had pretended to leave twice. And I didn't know why. I didn't know what she wanted, but the fact that she was playing with my sense of safety made it obvious that it wasn't harmless. I didn't know what to do. If I stayed, I was trapped in a stall with no phone. If I left, I could be walking into her arms, but I couldn't sit there forever. So I unlocked the stall as quietly as I could and stepped out, fully expecting to see her standing there. The bathroom was empty. I looked around quickly, behind the sinks near the door, in the corners. Nothing. No movement, no coat, no plastic bag. I washed my hands as fast as I could, barely even looking at what I was doing. My hands were shaking and the water felt too cold. Then I stepped out into the hallway. I had no idea where she went. I didn't know if she was waiting outside the bathroom door. I didn't know if she'd gone into the store and was standing somewhere that would force me to pass her. When I reached the main part of the store, there was a large man at the counter checking out. He looked like a traveler, maybe a truck driver, and the sight of him made me feel safer. So I waited. I pretended to browse a rack near the front until he finished paying and walked toward the exit. Then I followed him out, keeping a few steps behind, using him like a shield. The moment I stepped outside, my body went cold, because I saw her. She was standing near the side of the entrance, half hidden by the edge of the building, like she'd positioned herself to watch the doorway. This time she wasn't staring blankly, she was glaring, and in her hand she held something small and reflective. I couldn't tell exactly what it was from that distance, but the way she gripped it wasn't casual. It was tight, prepared, like she was ready to move quickly. For a split second I thought she was going to rush me. I tensed, ready to scream, ready to run, ready to do anything. But instead of coming at me, she turned sharply and walked around the side of the building toward the back, disappearing out of sight like she didn't want to be seen by anyone else. That was enough for me. I ran to our car. I got in fast, locked the doors immediately, and told my partner we needed to leave. He looked confused and asked what happened, why I was shaking, why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I told him I'd explain once we were on the road. He didn't argue. He just pulled out and got us back onto the highway. As we drove away, I looked back. For a moment, I saw her again, standing at the corner of the building, watching our car with that same fixed intensity. Then the gas station lights shrank behind us until they became just another bright spot, swallowed by the dark. When I finally told my partner everything, He got upset. Not at me for being scared, but because I hadn't brought my phone. And he was right. I should have. I just didn't think. But the truth is, I don't stop at isolated roadside bathrooms anymore. Not at night. Not alone. Because sometimes the scariest part isn't what someone does. It's what they make you realize while you're trapped in a locked stall with no way to call for help. There's a 24/7 travel stop out by the highway not far from where I live. In a rural town like mine, that place is basically a landmark. If you need food, caffeine, or anything at all after midnight, that's your only option. The drive is usually quiet. Mostly fields, scattered trees, and long stretches of road where you can go minutes without seeing another car. I've made that drive enough times that it almost feels routine. My sleep schedule has always been terrible, so late-night trips are normal for me. That night, I'd been awake working at my desk for hours, not partying, not drinking, just trying to get through a task while the world was asleep. Around 2 a.m., hunger hit me all at once. It wasn't gradual. It was like my body suddenly remembered I hadn't eaten and decided to punish me for it. So I grabbed my keys, told myself I'd be back in 20 minutes, and drove to the travel stop. The parking lot was half lit, the kind of lighting that makes everything look pale and tired. A couple trucks were parked far out near the edges. One car sat closer to the entrance with its engine running, but I didn't think much of it. Places like that always have someone sitting in their car at weird hours. Inside, the store was quiet. Just the low hum of refrigerators and that faint, constant sound you hear in places with bright lights at night. I ordered something hot at the counter and wandered around while I waited. I tend to pace when I'm tired. I kept walking down aisles I didn't even need, just passing time. That's when I noticed him. At the back of the store, near the freezer wall, there was a man standing completely still. At first, I assumed he was just choosing something, but the longer I watched, the stranger it felt. He wasn't reaching for anything. He wasn't reading labels. He wasn't moving like a customer. He was just facing the freezers. His shoulders were slightly hunched like he was listening through the glass. And the worst part was that he was close enough to the freezer doors that his breath probably fogged them. I tried not to stare. I told myself he was probably tired, or intoxicated, or just weird. But something about the stillness was wrong. The kind of wrong your instincts recognize before your brain does. I took a different aisle, pretending to look at snacks, but I kept him in my peripheral vision. I wanted to leave without making it obvious that I noticed him. Then he turned his head. Not slowly, not casually. He snapped his head around and locked onto me like he'd been waiting for the exact moment I looked. I froze, still pretending I was browsing, but I could feel my face heating up with that uncomfortable awareness of being watched. His eyes looked too wide, not surprised, wide, just open in a way that didn't match his expression. His mouth wasn't smiling, but it also wasn't angry. It was blank, like his face forgot how to react normally. I looked away immediately and started walking toward the counter, telling myself to act normal. My order still wasn't ready. So I stood there waiting, and I positioned myself so I could see the store's reflection in a glass panel near the counter. I didn't want to turn around fully, but I wanted to know if he moved. In the reflection, he wasn't at the freezers anymore. He was walking, not toward the counter, not toward an aisle, toward the front of the store, toward me. My heart started beating too fast, too hard, like my body was trying to prepare me for something my mind didn't want to accept. But he stopped before he reached the counter. He didn't get in line, he just stood off to the side, angled in a way that kept me in view. Then he raised his hand and made a small gesture. It looked like he was signaling to someone outside. A second later, My food was ready. I grabbed it fast, thanked the worker without even thinking, and left. I walked out into the night air and headed toward my car with my keys already in my hand. That's when I saw movement near the entrance. The man from inside was out there now, walking quickly across the front area of the parking lot, not running, but moving with purpose, like he suddenly had somewhere to be. He went straight toward a dark SUV parked at the far side, near where the lights didn't reach well. The SUV's brake lights flashed, then its headlights came on. I got into my car, locked the doors immediately and started the engine, and for a few seconds I just sat there, watching the SUV. Then it pulled out, not toward the road. It pulled out in a way that placed it behind me. I told myself it was a coincidence. I backed out and headed toward the highway, and the SUV followed. I kept telling myself it was nothing. There's only one way to go from that place. Everyone takes the same road. It could be anyone, but then it got close, too close. Its headlights filled my rearview mirror. And the way it sat behind me didn't feel like a normal driver. It felt like pressure, like it wanted me to know it was there. I sped up slightly just to create distance. The SUV sped up too. I changed lanes to let it pass. It changed lanes with me. My mouth went dry. The highway was empty, no streetlights, just darkness, broken occasionally by reflective signs and the faint outline of trees. I slowed down slightly again, trying to see if it would go around me. It didn't. Instead, it moved closer until I couldn't see its front grille anymore, only the glare of headlights. Then it flashed its high beams. Not once, repeatedly. A deliberate pattern, like it was trying to intimidate me. I felt that cold, sinking realization. This wasn't a person trying to get home. This was someone trying to control my choices. I gripped the steering wheel hard and kept going. My mind raced through options. If I pulled over, I'd be alone on the shoulder with no one around. If I kept driving, I was letting this continue. I reached for my phone, but I didn't want to take my eyes off the road. I didn't want to risk anything that could slow my reaction time. The SUV moved even closer. Then, without warning, it swerved slightly, just enough to make my car shake as the air pressure shifted. It wasn't a full hit. It felt like a test, like a warning. And then it happened. The SUV bumped my car from behind, hard enough that my body jerked forward and the tires wobbled. Not an accident, not a mistake, a deliberate strike. My heart slammed against my ribs and a single thought took over my head. This person is trying to make me crash. I didn't try to outrun it at insane speed. The road was too dark, too empty, too unpredictable. Instead, I focused on staying stable. I stayed in my lane, kept my hands tight on the wheel, and watched the SUV's position in the mirror. It hit me again, another shove from behind, like someone kicking a chair out from under you. The car swayed. I fought to keep it straight. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I waited until the SUV looked like it was lining up for another impact. And at the last possible moment, I slowed down fast, controlled, not slamming the brakes, but enough to force the SUV to react. The SUV lurched forward, swerved, and its headlights swung wide as the driver overcorrected. For a second, it looked like it might recover, but then it drifted too far off the road. I saw the vehicle drop into the shoulder, then disappear into the dark beside the highway. I didn't stop to check. I didn't slow down. I kept driving, shaking so badly I could barely feel my hands, and I didn't look back until I saw the first signs of town. When I finally got home, I locked the door behind me like I was sealing myself away from the night. Then I called the police. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, like it belonged to someone else. I told them what happened. I described the travel stop, the SUV, the way it followed me, the way it struck my car intentionally. They asked where it happened, but out there, Everything looks the same. Long stretches of darkness with no clear markers. Still, I gave them every detail I could: the time, the direction, the general location, the description of the vehicle. After the call ended, I sat in silence and stared at my hands. They were still trembling. In the morning, I checked my car and found damage on the rear. Small, but undeniable. Proof that it wasn't in my head. Proof that someone decided in the middle of the night, on an empty highway, that I was a target. And I still don't know why. I don't know if the man inside the store recognized me from previous nights. I don't know if he thought I saw something I shouldn't have. I don't know if he was just looking for someone, anyone, to follow. All I know is this: that 24/7 stop is still there. And no matter how hungry I am, I don't go after midnight anymore.